I am a fool. That is one thing for certain. Hey, my name is Brian Curtis, and I'm the founder of Decentralized Systems. And I got Divya here again with me today. So, if you watched the last video, we talked about what you do and how you got to connecting people and all that stuff. So, we were discussing a little bit before I started here about mental health, and I'd love to talk about that today because I just got done writing about that and how to cure those things, how to get support in your community and that type of thing. So I'll let you speak about on that as however you like.
Absolutely. So this let's kind of take a look at what has been happening in the professional industry along with the entrepreneurs. What has happened is due to pandemic, the whole humanity was shaken up. And a lot of people didn't realize it, but now they're experiencing burnout. And there was a very interesting article, I think it's in New York Times, long time back, where they had talked about a state between burnout and depression, something called languishing. And it's almost like you are feeling you want to do something and yet you're not doing it because of the tiredness and all that. So, one of the things I want to talk about is that it's important not to have any stigma around it because we can see, let's say if it's a fracture, right? Like, think about it. Like, if you have a friend and if somebody falls down and if they're hurting, what are you going to do? First of all, you're going to make sure, like, to make them as comfortable as possible. And then what you'll do is like, hey, like, since you fell down, you're hurting, let me call the medics, the proper people, and then get you seen and then get them treated. So similarly, what is happening is what I'm seeing in a lot of my clients is that people don't want to acknowledge, even though it's becoming mainstream, it's still not mainstream. It's so important to recognize if you're experiencing symptoms of mental fatigue. It could be simple as Zoom fatigue. You don't want to be on Zoom. You don't want to be getting in front of the camera and going and doing it. So recognize that and give people some grace and acceptance and compassion. So that's so important, like whether it is for yourself, give that grace, compassion, and empathy.
Yeah, I just got done. It's funny you're saying all this because, all of us, especially when you're on in the entrepreneurial world and you might not have a finished product, of where you're going. And when we're in a recession, it's getting tightened and you're just starting your business, I mean, there's a lot of anxiety around that, right? So you're overcoming a lot of internal battles. It's all internal. And learning to overcome those internal battles, a lot of times has to do with your support structure and how you're balancing your day. Because if you don't have anybody to support you and you feel like you're alone in that process, it just makes it 100 times worse, right? I mean, I'm sure, I don't know how you deal with it with your clients, but as far as I'm concerned, everybody should find ways to reach out. And you don't have to be, 100% vulnerable. Just know that you need to spend time with people and make sure that's part of your day. Because if you're by yourself the whole time, it's just going to get worse, right?
Yeah, I really like what you're sharing, Brian. It's about that support structure. And one of the things I do want to ask people to like work on this year, and that is actually one of my not one of my that's one of my goals, but like the phrase for my this year is expand with ease and flow. And when we talk about expand with ease and flow, you can do it alone. You can do it in presence of like-minded people. So for example, like, I touched base with Brian sometime back, and it's really good to have a person like Brian in your circle, because when you have people who are uplifting themselves and who care for others, then they will uplift you too. And of course, it's like, you are uplifting each other. So Brian and I were just talking about meditation. So having one is that support, having people in your circle that you can lean on, that they can lean on you. It's reciprocal having those. relationship capital, I call that. And capital, this is not in a bad way or anything like that. But when I talk about capital, it's like, so for example, if you have money in the bank, you know that like, okay, you know, I'll be able to pay my bills. You have that reliability. So same thing when I talk about relationship capital is that you have people in your inner circle that you can lean on. Then another piece, like you and I were talking about, is meditation. Sometimes you don't have to go far. You can lean on it yourself. And like you may say, gosh, you know, Brian, I don't know if you've heard from a lot of other people. Like, yeah, a lot of my clients, you were mentioning about my clients, like, you know, a lot of my clients rely on me to support them through their time period. But then there are a lot of people who may not have access to people or may not have funding, or they're not ready to go to someone for support.
Right.
Oh, I can do meditation. I can do, find your meditation. What gives you the relaxation? If you can meditate, see if you get a runner's high. Does running give you relief? Check it out. Does music give you relief? Put on some music and just dance. If you like rain, so it's finding that niche, your balanced niche that you can find, that where you get joy and pleasure and you can access it yourself as well.
Yeah, and meditation also helps you find the origin of wherever those fears or traumas are coming from. And once you can become, your awareness expands to where you find out where the real source is, then it kind of, it dissipates, right? Because then later when you start, those feelings or emotions start to come on board, you already know where they're coming from. It's like, oh, I dealt with that already. I don't need to go through that again, right? And because
Yeah.
you realize you are putting yourself through this, whatever it is that you're going through, and it's very difficult. I mean, I'll be the first one to tell you, man, I had so many traumas from early childhood for a lot of different reasons, and it hasn't been until, you know, within the last year and a half that I've been able to really pinpoint, you know, and see, okay, where's this coming from, right? Because you find yourself in really dark places. I mean, you can put yourself in as dark a place as you want to be in, but if you can find the source of why you're feeling that way and why you're putting yourself through that, you know, all of us at some point really need to deal with that. And support is great. You really have to have somebody around you that is listening to you. And you might not be able to vocalize exactly what you need, but just having somebody there with you, it means more than anything. Yeah.
Absolutely. I really like what you said, is that awareness expands. And when you see where it is coming from, it melts away. And folks, you know, like you mentioned, Brian, that it took you a year and a half. I mean, not like it until like year and a half you were experiencing those traumas.
Yeah.
So when you become aware, the key is not to, I always say, like, you know, few things not to do. Not judging yourself, not blaming yourself, not shaming yourself, not criticizing, not guilting. And the reason I say that is when you start doing that, you are eliminating the very essence of who you are. This is in the past. You can learn from it. Whatever happened, you are good and perfect as you are. We are all perfectly imperfect. I don't know about you, Brian, but I know that I'll be working on myself for the rest of my life. I'm continuously learning. And there's so many flaws and everything that every day I'm like, huh. I still catch myself, oh, I could have done that better. And then that talk goes on, oh, you didn't pay attention. Then I catch myself. So going back to the point that you shared about is the awareness. And when that awareness comes, it's so important to accept yourself and not bring that judgment. Because when you accept yourself as you are, I always laugh with some of my clients, and like sometimes they're like, oh, it's hard to accept. I can't do that. I just can't do that. And I say, okay, what kind of trees do you have in your backyard? Or like, you know, in your neighborhood, or like as you're walking and people are like, oh, what does trees have to do with me? I'm like, have you ever stood in front of the tree, looked at it and said, I don't like this tree. Why is this tree like that? So same way, you are a creation of nature and we all go through it. We are all evolving. we don't know what a tree would look like. Every seed comes out differently, so we just accept it. So similarly, you don't know how you are supposed to grow. You're growing right now, and if you're paying attention to it and bringing awareness to it, acceptance is the answer, because till you don't accept yourself, that conflict and resentment and chaos and confusion and disparity and disconnect will be there.
Yeah, I like what you say that, especially having compassion for yourself. Some people have you don't realize that you're not doing it, that you're not having compassion for yourself, because if you're holding on to some trauma in the past where it's like, I just didn't do this and that, and you don't realize it, but you're identifying with an old version of yourself, and you're just holding on to an old trauma. The reality is you're not that person. All of us have infinite potential, and all you're doing is just holding on to some old identity, right? It's not really there. And so, yeah, in order to get past that, you do really have to have compassion for yourself, saying, hey, it's going to be all right. I'm going to let go of that stuff eventually. I realize it's all illusionary. The past is just, a learning lesson that's sitting behind me. And then I can do whatever I want today. I can be whoever I want to be today. I think that's one of the most important lessons you can possibly learn, right? Is we are all these infinite creators. And as long as we have when you learn to have compassion for yourself and you start to go through that process, and it's much easier to help other people that are going through something similar that you went through. And I think that's one of the main reasons we do go through that, right? So that we can be there for other people when they need to go through it.
And Brian, I really love what you said, that we are not the same person. Like, think about it. You may have started your journey before listening to Brian's podcast, and now you've listened to this, and then you have an aha moment or a breakthrough or some realization, and that puts you to being a different version of yourself, just like half an hour back. So we are always changing. And if we were to go like chemistry wise or something like that, we're breathing out oxygen and carbon dioxide, and who knows where our carbon is going to which place and what they're becoming of. So we are constantly evolving, we are constantly changing. So change is the name of the game, and it's easier said than done. I always say, it's okay to fall, it's okay to fail, it's just not okay to give up. So believe in yourself and let your infinite potential come out. Like you said, we are infinite creators, and see who you can impact, because I guarantee you that your experience would be of benefit to somebody who's going through your pains that you have overcome. We are all in a circle. The way I see it is we are on a continuum of circle. There's anybody ahead than anyone. We're just at different spots on this journey.
Yeah, and that's really the uplifting message, right? Is that and that's one thing, you can always tell somebody, no matter what they're going through, is like, look at it this way. As soon as you figure out how to get through whatever you're going through, you're going to be able to help anybody do anything. Right? Because, and that's what we're all here for, is each other. So yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, so I had one other thought that along that train of thought, and I just forgot it. I can't. Oh yeah, faith. Faith is a really important element, because at the deepest level, as long as you don't quit, it means that on your deepest level, you understand that as long as you just keep walking forward, that you're going to get out of whatever you're in. So, you're never getting rid of that dream and that vision that you have that you want to get to. But as soon as you stop, then it collapses, right? You've just collapsed that vision. And like you said, all of us are infinite creators. So as long as we just keep walking forward to that vision that we have, then we'll get there eventually. We don't have to get there tomorrow or next week, but we'll do it together, right?
Oh, I love that. We'll do it together. And another key is celebrating. Because the way I look at it is, life could be like a train. And think about it I'm going to go back to the olden days, not today's trains, where they had to fill in the steam and coal and whatever needed to be there. And, once it reaches to a destination, take a stop, take a pause, and celebrate yourself that you've achieved that milestone. There's no like final destination per se, because as you mentioned, there's infinite potential and you don't know what else you can achieve. What could you achieve? So why not celebrate even a tiny milestone? Like, so for example, if you're on a day like, it's like, oh gosh, I hit the snooze button every single day. On a day, if you don't hit snooze button and you get out of the bed without that, I'd say celebrate yourself. Incremental goals, incremental achievements, and incremental celebrations.
Oh yeah, I explore incremental celebrations all the time as much as possible. Actually, I love picking my kids up from school. So every day during the week, I love hearing about what they did during school and how they're getting along in school, and because school doesn't really last that long, especially in your high school years, and you realize those 4 years went by really fast and you'll never relive them. There's so many experiences you have when you're early like that you forget to treasure when you're that age, because you don't realize how many people are coming in and out of your life back then. So yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian.
I'll ask you one last question. What do you think was your most astounding personal breakthrough with mental health, where you felt like you really overcame a hurdle at some point in your life and you felt like you were getting a lot closer to your life's purpose? Because usually for me personally, I know that's where I really came to a deeper understanding of what I was meant to do here, when I overcame all of those really deep internal traumas that I was holding on to that I didn't realize I was holding on to. So I'll ask you that question.
Great question. So I've had several breakthroughs throughout my life. I've been very fortunate. So I used to be in the business of making life-changing medications. So to me, that was very rewarding, very fulfilling. And when they would show us the videos of the patients, like who were taking our medicines, and some of them were cancer saving, and like they got that life and were able to see their grandchild born. And so it would just kind of fill you up that, yeah, you know what? Here I am, like that's my life's purpose. And then you keep on going through, the corporate world and the corporate life. And then one day when people were laid off, I wasn't laid off because I had grown my career laterally, so I could do multiple people's jobs. So I think so that was the reason. I was never told what was the reason, but like when I saw those people just being walked off, like, these are my friends and my family. It's like, I get it. I get it because, these are for profit organizations. And when we signed the contract, it said, well, like you can be let go of at any time. But that just something, I'm like, am I supposed to be part of a system like this, or what am I supposed to do in life? So that's when a lot of soul searching happened. And as I went through digging deeper within myself, I knew that I had insatiable curiosity and desire for learning. I'm like, if I want to continuously grow, then what's the most important thing in my life is to make a difference in people's lives. For some people, it is climate change. For some people, it could be an animal species. For some people, it's like SPCA. For some people, it's children. For me, it's humanity. Like, okay, what are the echoes that I could leave behind? What's the legacy I could leave behind? And so as I went through that, what dawned for me was it was making a difference, where it didn't have to be anything substantial. It was just like seeing people's lives transform, seeing their potential come out. And that's what led me to coaching.
Yeah, it's so rewarding, right? All the big stuff doesn't matter. You just want to see the people around you be successful, right?
You got it.
Yeah. That's a awesome message. I don't think I could possibly beat that one, Divya. Well, thank you for
Oh, we
joining
are
me
in this
today.
together. There's no like,
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah. And even if you feel like you've gone a long way, like you said, just continuing to grow with the people around you, you'll have aha moments for the rest of your life, hopefully, right? You don't want to just be at a dead end somewhere and just start looking back and thinking, okay, where am I going now? You know?
and the key is, Brian, is like being open to miracles. And I'm not talking about miracles as like, oh gosh, I wave my magic wand and something happens. Looking for miracles in day-to-day lives. So I'll just be kind of walking down on the street, or I'll be walking in the woods. And then you see that, like, here's a whole dead trunk. The tree has fallen off, there's no roots. And you see tiny little saplings coming out of that tree.
Yeah, life is
Life finds
amazing.
its way. And to me, it's just fascinating when, like, if you look at it like the dirt, there's nothing there, and you put a seed there, and then you have all these different types of plants coming out. Like, all it needs is that dirt or like nutrients and mushrooms. Like, when it's raining and like one day there's nothing, and on second day, like you see like yellow colored and then spotty and like white mushrooms. And oh, life is just an adventure. If we just gotta look for it, and you'll be surprised where you can find, like, like you may be speaking to a client. Like sometimes I'm sitting there and they'll be like talking, oh yeah, 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 something like this. That's something normal to them. I'm like, wow, that's such a beautiful way of looking at things. So life is full of miracles. And I say that just be open to finding those in day-to-day life.
Yeah, and we're all miracles because we're all looking at everything so differently. So it's just and there's so much enjoyment just by just learning how many different perspectives are there. And you talk to somebody, and it's like, wow, I never thought about it that way, right? Yeah, that's really that's what the joy of living is, right? I mean, I think I'm going to continue to keep meeting people for the rest of my life. I don't want to, and it's not like I don't like the people I'm with now, but we're all growing together. So I want to spend as much time with as many people as possible. Yeah.
Learning new perspectives. I totally get it.
Yeah. Okay, Divya. I think I've taken enough out of your day today. It wasn't too long today. We had a pretty good talk today. Are you going to join me again in the future?
Absolutely, Brian. You have such a presence and you're doing such a good job of helping people out. So thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for doing what
That was
you're
a
doing.
very nice compliment. So have a wonderful day.
You too. Take care.